There we go. So officially I'm going to now welcome you to this OTF Connects session, Harness the Power of Google Docs for Beginners with Shadi Yazdan. Shadi is an experienced presenter both for OTF, for ETFO, and I think in her own board she's pretty active doing all kinds of PD for teachers. So I'd like to welcome Shadi, and at this point I'm going to turn the mic over to her. So welcome, Shadi.
Thank you, Susan. How is the volume, everyone? Is it clear? Is it good? Susan, do you hear me well?
I hear you very well.
Perfect. Okay, good. Good. This is exciting. Wow, we have 34 people in the room. This is exciting. I'm going to clear the checkbox, and what I'd like to ask you guys first before we get started is, how many of you are Google Apps users? So if you are a Google user within your school, your board, yourself, just check the check mark, the green. And if you're not, please X that for us, just so I can get a clear idea of who my Googlers are. Wow, that's pretty impressive. So we're pretty even. Okay, 14 and 14. Okay, that's good. So the numbers are continuing to climb. Perfect. So if you are not a Google user, I'm assuming that you have just decided to use the Google platform with your students in your class. Okay. So tonight we're only going to focus on one aspect of Google, which is Google Docs. And Google Docs is very much like, if you want to think of it as Microsoft Word. So tonight we're going to talk about how you can use Google Docs to support your students in the classroom. I have a little graphic that you can see that talks about really the modern learning skills that students need in the current job market. So as you can see, the job market now with people that are entering the market, recent grads and so forth, it's changed quite drastically from when you and I were going into the market. So keeping all of these in mind, we really want to think about how do we want to make sure that we're harnessing all of these important skills and supporting our students as they get ready to enter the job market. Okay. All of this graphic that I have for you guys, the source is listed for you. If you click on that link, so you would type it out online, you actually go to the article that talks about what these skills are, what they entail, and how companies are looking for these skills. Okay. And if you are on Twitter and you're you use Twitter, feel free to follow me. I tweet a lot. I love sharing my learning, and I love learning from other people as well. Okay. So our learning goal for tonight will entail using Google Docs really to support our ELL and our SSC students, also to teach our students about copyright laws, providing our students with real-time descriptive feedback, real-time collaboration and sharing with our students and also with our colleagues, and just to get additional ideas and suggestions of how you can use Google Docs within your classrooms with your students, whether you're teaching kindergarten or you are teaching grade 8. Okay. SSC, good question, is special ed education. Okay. So I often get this question, why should I use Google Docs when I'm perfectly happy using Microsoft Word with my students? The reason why is that Google Docs is online and it is free. And the great thing about online is that it can be accessed anytime, anywhere, using any device. And anybody, as I mentioned, can access. You don't have to have the licensing to download Microsoft Word. It can be, as I mentioned earlier, accessed using any platform. So whether you're on a computer, on a mobile device, on your tablet, anything that you have, you can access Google Docs. One of the great things I remember I used to adore about Microsoft Word was the fact that there were templates that you can use. So templates for calendar, for newsletter, and I used to really love that about Microsoft Word. And when Google first introduced Google Docs, this was not an option. And yet now, Google Doc has those templates that you can use as well. I love the fact that in Google Docs, you don't have to remember saving your work. It's anything that you do is automatically saved. Again, no need for a USB stick or memory stick, as some people call it. You don't have to email your work back and forth, so it's incredible. And oftentimes people say, well, you know, it's online, dependent on Wi-Fi. However, now you can actually access Google Docs offline. So all you really need to do is download the Google Drive app for your, whether it's your computer or your tablet or your mobile device, and you'll be able to access your Google document. However, anything that you do input, if you don't have a Wi-Fi connection, it will not be saved. But then it'll be saved once you're connected to Wi-Fi. Another great component of Google Doc is that it really tracks changes. So whenever you have a group of students working on a document, and each student inputs a particular information, you can actually go back and track and see who wrote what was inputted in that document, which is wonderful for assessment purposes. And I'll show you guys how you can do that. And then, in addition to all of that, there are what's called add-ons. That means you can take your simple Google Doc and make it even more powerful by adding thesaurus, bibliography, tool called EasyBib, anything you can think of. And as my students used to like to call it, they'd say, oh, I am souping up my Google Doc. Any questions so far? Okay, good. If you do have any questions, please just type it into the chat, and I will periodically try to look at the chat, and if I don't, I know Susan will remind me. Okay, so the first question, how do you access your Google Docs? Once you log into your Google Drive, so if you are using your Google Apps account through your school, you will have a login, and if you're using it personally, Susan just input the URL address. Okay. Now, to access your Google Doc, when you log into your Drive, if you have a Gmail account, you already have a Google Drive. Everybody does, except some people don't use it, don't know where it is. I've actually started using my own personal Google Drive to keep my own personal reflection journals, pictures, and so on. So it's really great in saving you time, and now you have a place to put all your information. So once you're in your Google Drive, there's a little button that you have at the top left-hand corner of the screen. It's called New. Once you click on New, then you click on Google Docs. Let me find the little pointer. Okay. Oops, that's not what I want. Susan, where is the pointer?
So if you go to the toolbar, which is right here, and choose the second one right here, and then you've got a finger pointing in either direction.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so there it is. So New and then Google Docs, which is your Microsoft Word. Google Sheets is your
Shadi, I'm going to interrupt, Shadi. You have to hold it down, like there you go.
Hold it down. Got it.
Otherwise, we don't see it.
There. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. So Google Docs is very similar to your Microsoft Word. Google Sheets is very similar to Spreadsheet. Google Slide, think of that as your PowerPoint, and then there are additional tools that you have access to as well. And then you can create folders and put all your documents in one particular folder. And you can also share the folder with students, so whenever you put in new documents, they'll have access to it. Okay, so some of the neat functions of Google Docs. Okay, so at the top bar, when you log in, when you click on your Google Doc, at the top bar you have an option called Tools. Now within Tools you have some really incredible components. There's one which is the research component, which I'm going to show you guys. There's voice typing, which I absolutely adore. This is your voice to text. So you hold it down and then you can record, you dictate what you want written, and then it will all be automatically written for you. If any of you have used Dragon, I actually find this way better than Dragon. If you are Surrey users, this is actually better. It picks up much better than the Surrey does. And then for your ELL students, whenever you assign them an assignment, you can actually have the document translated in their particular language. What I used to do is I worked in an area that had a high number of ELL students. So whenever I was sharing any instructions with parents, I would have that particular instruction, that sentence, translated to the languages that my students spoke in the classroom. So then the parents, when they would go on the classroom website, they could see the information in their own particular language. So someone asked me if voice typing works in French. Good question. I don't know. I apologize, but I can find out for you and let you know. Susan, would you happen to know if it does or not? I know you have experience with Google Docs
Yeah,
as well.
I don't know that, but I'm going to take time right now to go and Google it, so I'll put an answer in there if I find out.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So we are going to look at the research function of Google Docs. When you open your Google Docs, your screen will look something similar to this. Now, if you, every single document that you create, the title will be Untitled Document. I highly suggest naming your documents, because if you don't, you're going to have a whole bunch of documents called Untitled Documents, and you're not going to know what's what. To change the name of your document, if you actually just click on Untitled Document, you can give your document a name. It allows you to change that and input whatever you want it to be called. Once you are in your Google Docs, you click on Tools, and when you click on Tools, you come into the you click on Research, and then once you click on Research, then you can decide what you want to research. Now, you can actually search the Google directory for information. I have to be honest with you, I don't find that particularly good. What I really love using this for is to find images. And I like to find images that follow the laws of Creative Commons. So images that students can use in the classroom without having to worry about stealing someone else's work. So that's where I really like using this. And I really love the fact that they don't have to leave this environment, go into the Google environment, and go into Google Images and find the picture that they want. So once you click on Images, what happens is, let's go to the next screen. What happens is, so here, as you can see, there's a little camera icon. So I would put in whatever picture that I'm looking for, cats, whatever it is that I'm researching, Canadian flag, anything. Then there's this little icon at the bottom. When you click on this icon, this little window pops open. You have two options. You can either search for images that are not filtered by license, or search for images that are free to use, share or modify, even commercially. This in itself is a great lesson to teach students. So I have the students set their image search to free to use, share, modify, even commercially. And that way, all the pictures that you find are pictures that you can actually use. Now, one of the complaints I get from kids often is that, oh, miss, there aren't enough pictures. Well, you know, these are pictures that, you know, photographers or authors or whoever that's created them has given us the right to use. So if there's, I always talk to the kids about the fact that if there's a picture you want and you can't find it, what will you do about that? And oftentimes they say, well, you know what, miss, I'm going to create my own. And it's really great teaching them to become creators. Any questions so far? Okay.
Shady?
So once you find your, yes.
Sorry, I do have a question. When I hit the research button on my doc, nothing comes up.
When you click on research, did you select? So if I were to go back, when you click on research, it's usually on the G. You want to go down to where it says images, and you want to click on the image.
But when
and once you do, this is...
Sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
I go under Tools, I find Research, I click Research, and I'm holding down Research, but nothing comes up.
Do you have this icon, the little camera icon?
No.
Okay, so this is a second tab. So you have to click onto this white box where this little icon is. It has a little arrow right here, and it's a second option that you have to...
I see it, but you know what? Mine is completely different on my document. Like, I don't understand why. Maybe what I can do is I can take a screenshot of what I have, and then I can show you later.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Yes, and then you also want to type in the word that you're searching for. So type in cats in this white box.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, you can go ahead. I don't want to stop you from interrupting your class.
That's okay. Okay, so so let's say I'm searching for cats. I find an image of cats. So here I would put in the word cats. I find an image of cats. I can literally just click on the picture once, drag and drop it into my Google Doc environment. As soon as you drop the image, at the bottom of the page, the image is cited for you, so it's automatically done. Now, if you want, the citation format is automatically MLA, but you can change that to APA or Chicago if you like by clicking on the arrow that appears in this little toolbar. Okay? So first you choose the filter for your image to make sure that you're using the ones that are free to use, and then the second option you have is the citation format, which is really great because now students are learning the importance of citing their work, where their pictures are from, and also their research note as well.
Shadi, can I just interrupt for a quick second?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the person who was it. Laura who was asking the question about the research not showing up?
Yes, Susan, it was myself.
Okay, so I just wanted to mention that there's a possibility. What browser are you using, Laura?
I'm using my Google Docs for TDSB, so I am going through my school board.
Yeah, but what browser are you using?
Sorry, Firefox.
Okay. Firefox should work fine. The browser does make a difference. Firefox should be okay. Chrome is Google's own browser, so you will get best performance in the Google Docs world if you're using Chrome.
Okay.
Yeah, so
just
Firefox
a quick question. I go to Tools. When the Tools bar comes up, I see the Research button. I press Research, and then I should get the boxes that are modular. But I'm not getting anything when I hit Research. So that's.
So if you look on the screen, Tools is first. Once you click on Tools, then you click on Research, and then scroll down Research, and then you have to change the setting because this is a little arrow here. You have to click on it and then choose the option Images.
Yeah. See,
once you choose the Sorry, go ahead.
Where you have your research box, you have all these other things that pop up. When I click Research, nothing happens.
Because I clicked on the arrow. There's a little arrow right here where the G is. You have to click on that particular arrow for this drop-down menu for you to see.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's not even an arrow. There's nothing. All I get is my toolbar with spelling, research, define, word count, voice typing, all of that stuff. When I click Research, nothing happens. It does not engage.
I'm not sure why, because someone just said that they're using Firefox as well and they have no issue.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm wondering if it's just maybe my school board, because the voice, you know how you have the voice command on yours? Mine is whited out. You can't use it. with our school board.
It could be. It could be that TDSB, do we have anyone else here from TDSB that can try to see if they have access to the research button?
Because it's a great tool. It sounds fantastic.
Yes, it really is.
I have run into that in sessions before where teachers from specific school boards have had certain things either disabled. Now, I can't imagine, as you just said, why anyone would disable the research tool because it's amazing. But that's something to think about.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'll let you go so we're not interrupting everybody else, but I'll keep listening. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is all part of the learning. Thank you. Okay, so the next component of Google Docs within that same toolbar is the voice typing. Voice typing is the voice-to-text component. So again, when you click on Tools, you scroll down to Voice Typing. So this is the little icon of voice typing. And once you click on voice typing, this little icon will appear. And then you're going to have to click to speak. However, if you've never used this tool before, as soon as you click to speak, a little icon will appear at the top of your screen asking you to allow your mic to be enabled. Okay? So there's a little allow, there's something that says allow, and you want to accept that and let it accept the mic to be used. And once you do that, it's going to go, this mic turns red. And you click on it once to speak, and then you click on it once to stop. Now, I notice with the voice typing, you do have to speak a little bit slower, not too slow, but you also, whenever you want, when you're talking and you want there to be a period, you have to say period. For commas, you have to say the command comma. And for a new paragraph, you have to say new paragraph. But pause a little bit before you continue. Okay? So those are some little tricks to remember. Okay? But it is a really powerful tool. I actually have started using it for my master's course essays and so on. I start dictating, and I actually find it improves my writing as well. Okay, so Laura says that it works because she switched to Chrome. So that's good. I'm really glad to hear it, Laura. Hope you have access to voice typing as well. Okay, any questions? Again, feel free to just post your questions in the chat box there. Okay. Now, this is another powerful component of Google Docs, and this is the Translate document. Now, from what I understand, majority of languages in the world are within the translation component of Google Docs. I don't think every single language in the world is there, but from what I understand, majority are there. Now, what I really like about this is that when you click on Translate your document, your original document is not translated. A new document is created, and that document automatically gets the name translated copy of whatever the name of the document is. And then you translate it into any language you like, and that's it. Just a word of warning, if you are translating anything to Chinese, please use simplified, because traditional, most of the students do not understand traditional Chinese. It is very difficult. So simplified Chinese is the one that you want to use. Okay? And yes, I agree, new languages are being added all the time. It is word-to-word translation in that I have to say yes and no. I've tried translating into a language that is my mother tongue, and I understand the gist of it. It's not 100%, but you get the gist of it. So someone asked how accurate are the translations. They're not 100%. But they're, like I said, you understand what the document is about. A native speaker will understand. And I've actually tested this on my parents as well. And they laughed and they thought it was funny translation, but they understood what the document was about. Yes, we have a question. Shirley. Shirley, can you unmute your mic?
Hi, I was just wondering what device you're using, like where the example's coming from, because I'm trying to log into Google Docs and whatever, and the layout is just different. So I'm wondering if it's on the computer that the examples are coming from, like the slides.
Yeah, so all the slides, these are screenshots from online. So again, if you are on Explore, it's gonna look different. Make sure that you're using Chrome.
Shirley.
So it really depends on your
Shirley,
browser.
are you on a mobile device?
I'm just on my iPad.
Yes, and the whole interface is different on an iPad than what Shadi is sharing with us here on the screen.
Okay, so if I was to log in on a computer, it would more or less look like the screenshots.
You got it, my dear.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. But make sure on a computer that you do use Chrome, because then you'll see exactly what I'm showing you. However, if you use Explore, you're not going to see the same thing. Even in Firefox, it will look very similar. Okay? Now, when you create an assignment and you want to share it with your students, how do you do that? Well, if you look at your Google Doc, you'll notice at the top right-hand corner that there's this icon, the share icon. Right now, you can see the screenshot that I took. The lock is on, which means no one has access to this document. Only I do. However, when I share it with other people, the lock opens up. You have 3 different options for sharing. So you would put in the email address of the students within this area. When you click on share, this little window is going to open. You put the student's email address or your coworker's email address if you're co-planning a lesson together. And once you do that, you have 3 options. You can either give them full editing rights. That means they can go into the document and change the information around, add things, delete things, and so on. You can give them comment right, which means they can't change anything within the document, but they can leave comments. Think of it as little sticky notes along the document, okay? Can view means they can only see the document, but they can't make any changes, they can't comment, they can't do anything about that document. So it depends on what assignment you're giving to your students, you would be choosing these options. If I give my students an assignment where I would like every single student to collaboratively contribute, then I would give the whole class can edit right. If I want my students to read something and make comments based on what they're reading, then I would give them can comment. If I create an assignment, whether it's a formative or a summative task, I would instruct my students to make their own copy and then do the assignment and share it back with me again. So I would use the can view option. So this is another way that you can share a document with your class. Now, I may at some times, depending on the class that I'm teaching or the teachers that I'm working with, share a link to a document. Oftentimes in my role, I work with teachers in my board. I work for York Region, and what I do is I go from one school to another, or I run full day PD sessions for teachers in a particular area in York Region, and I would not have everybody's first name and last name to be able to share a document with them. So what I would do is when I click on that share button at the top of the page, instead of putting in the participant's email address, I would click on Get Shareable Link. And when you do that, a little window pops open. And what I would do, so when this window pops open, you have options. Either they can just view the document. If I click on this, another drop-down window opens up, or they can edit the document, or they can comment on the document. Okay, so I would share this link with everybody. You can shorten the link as well. And there are a number of programs out there that allow you to copy this link into the program. Google has its URL shortener. So you take it, and it's just called Google URL shortener. You would copy this link, and then it will give you shorten this link. The one that I like to use, that I'll be sharing a number of links with you guys, is bit.ly, bit.ly. That's it. There's no www, there's no .com, nothing. bit.ly. And all you do is copy the link, paste it into bit.ly, and you can even customize it. That's what I really like about bit.ly, that it allows me to customize my link. Because oftentimes, a whole bunch of numbers don't really make sense. But when I customize a link, then participants have an easier time inputting that into their computer and following the link. To customize a link on bit.ly, you will have to sign up with your email address, whether you use your work or your personal one. Okay, and Susan has placed the URL for bit.ly and Google for us in the chat. Okay, so if you click on it, a window opens up. You can save that window, add it to your favorites so that you can access it later on. Okay. So again, this is good if you are sharing a doc. If you're a Rotary teacher, this is really good. But if you're just teaching, if you have 25, 32 students, then just creating a distribution list and sharing document with students using their email address, that's the easiest thing to do. This is, now we're going to talk about tracking student work, so revision history. To access revision history within your Google Doc, you click on File, then you click on See Revision History. Once you do that, you're going to see, so if you actually look at it right now, if you have a Google Doc open, you may not see anything here because nobody has done any editing on your Google Doc because it's just a Google Doc for you. So to do that, when you click on Revision History, you can actually see the date and the time and which person contributed what to that particular document. So the question is, how do you share a document with a lot of students? Do you mean the URL? Vicky? Okay, so here it is. I'll go back. Okay, to share a document with a lot of students, when you are in this step, either you can type in their email, but if you have a lot of students and you can't, you click on, at the top of the page, you have this option called Get Shareable Links. You click on that, you decide how you want to share with the students. Do you want them to edit, view, or comment? And you copy this link, and you can either display it on your classroom wall, you can copy it and put it in a Google Doc so the kids can access. And I'm going to show you guys that. I'm going to show you guys how to use a Google Doc as an agenda or as a way of sharing things with students. Does that answer your question, Vicki? Okay, good. No problem. So once, if you want to see, you have a group of kids that are working on an assignment, you want to see who contributed what to that assignment, you click on File, See Revision History, and you can see everything, every single student has input on that doc. What time, what day. This is a really powerful tool. And I highly encourage sharing this with your students because I think it's really important for them to know that they need to be accountable for the work that they do in their group and that you as a teacher are going to be using this as their learning skills assessment mark. So someone asked, if you turn on the shareable link, how do you turn it off? So let me go back and show you guys this. when you, so if you want to turn it off, when you click on this, anyone with a link can view, there's a little option here that says off. And this is how you would turn it off. Yes, so someone asked, do the students' names automatically get attached to what they post? Every student, yes, and they actually are color-coded. So every student is a different color. So it would be just like this. So here's a color orange for Mariam, and then color green for Chris. Yes, Shirley.
I just posted my
Yes,
question.
so to see the revision, sorry, Shirley, I think I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, sorry. I just had posted my question as well. Basically, for the students' names to come up, don't they have to be somehow like registered? You would have had to add them somehow. Like where are they coming from?
Yeah. So if you are in a board where you are already Google Apps users, then every student would be logging in with their Google account. However, if you are using this yourself, then there's two ways to do this. Either you've provided each student with a Gmail account, which before the world of Google Apps for Education is something I actually used to do. I would send permission form home to parents, let them know what we were using, how we were going to use it, how it was going to benefit us in our learning, get their permission, and if they said no, I did not use the tool, get their permission, and then I would create a Gmail account for every student, and I had all the usernames and the password, so that when I did things like this with them, then I could easily track them. If they're not registered, you're absolutely right. There's no way for you to see who contributed to what.
So basically, they would use their board-assigned account.
Yes.
But then how do I access them, like with their board-assigned login, I guess?
It depends on how your board has set up your Google account. In York Region, every student has their own Google account, and they log in with their Google account. So it really depends on your board, how it's set up. From what I understand, all Ontario province schools that are Google Apps for Education have a particular login for their students. So someone just said every student in Peel has a Google account as well. TBSB students, I know they also have a login, and so does Upper Canada. How can you find out? The best is for you to talk to your technology. I don't know what you guys call it in your board. In York Region, we call them digital literacy resource teachers. In some board, they call them technology coaches. Okay. Okay. Okay, so any questions about revision history? Okay, perfect. So now we are going to talk about collaboration beyond the classroom walls, and that's really, in essence, what Google Doc allows you to do. The learning doesn't stop when classroom is over. Students can continue engaging with each other, working on their assignments, even when they are not in the classroom, okay? So some of the ways that you can go about collaborating beyond the classroom walls is to connect your class with another classroom in your school and have students perhaps engage in that traditional pen pal writing or work on a particular assignment together. You can even take it outside of your school, and if you have a colleague in another school, that you can have your class connect with their class. And if you are a Twitter user, what I used to do is I would post on Twitter saying, you know, grade 8 class looking to connect with another grade 8 class, and we would connect with grade 8 classes across the world. And I know Skype in the Classroom allows you to do that as well. So there are lots and lots of ways that you can go about bringing that real world into your classroom. And it really just makes that learning so much more engaging. But don't feel like you have to go out there and find a classroom in another country. Start within your own school. connect your classroom with another classroom, either younger grade, older grade. That's the best way to do it. Before I was mentioning templates, this is something new to Google. This was not the case before, but templates is amazing. If you are a Microsoft Word user, you already know that you have access to lots and lots of Microsoft Word templates. Well, Google didn't have this before. Now they do. When you log into your Google Docs, at the top of your Google Docs, you have this little box with lines. If you click on this, it'll take you to a page that looks like this with templates that you can choose, templates that are already created for you. Now, what I did for you guys is, in addition to this, there's actually template add-on that you can see. Do you see how here it says add-on? That you can add on and subscribe to be able to access more templates. So here is the link at the bottom, and it is case sensitive. There's no www, there's no HTTP, just bit.ly/G and then template. Notice this is customized because I used bit.ly, and this is why I prefer to use bit.ly over other URL shorteners. Okay. Thank you, Susan, for putting all the links on in the chat. Again, you can click on them right in the chat. You'll go directly to the site, add it to your favorites, and you can refer to it later on. So here we're talking about add-ons. There are tons and tons of add-ons, and I have to be honest with you, some of them are really good, but most of them may not be. And there have been numbers that I've added that I've removed later on because they weren't useful. So the only way you'll know is for you to play. Give yourself time to play, to figure out. Some of my favorite ones, I really like the thesaurus, and I like the Easy Bib, which helps with citation. Okay? To install an add-on, all you do, at the top of the bar, you click on Add-on, and then you click on Get Add-ons, and a window opens up, and you can go through and find some add-ons. Before you actually add any add-ons, I would even Google it and say recommended add-ons for educators. Some of them allow you to only use the add-on for 30 days, and then you have to pay for it. So again, be very careful. Read the fine line. So here are some suggestions for you to use Google Docs, how you can actually use it right away in the classroom. Excellent for formative assessment. I would even use it for diagnostic assessment, summative assessment as well. Great to just use for quick little check for understanding, deconstructing media or text. So I'm going to show you guys sample. You can put an image and have students respond to that image. Great for media studies. Excellent for collaborative lesson planning with your grade partner. Really saves a lot of time, and you don't have to be in the same classroom or find a time for you to meet. You know, you can just say, here's a lesson that we have for tomorrow at home on your own time, whenever or during your own prep, you can start working on the lesson plan. Okay. And you can also use it to share your unit overview and lessons with your administrator. Before I came into my role, my current role where I'm responsible for supporting teachers in York Region, I had my TPA. And I actually shared all my lesson plans, unit overviews, everything with my administrator through Google Docs. At first he was kind of like hesitant, but once I showed him how to access it, he really loved it. So it did save a lot of time. And I didn't have to bring home any binders or anything with me or organize any binders. One of the jokes at my school was when I left, everyone thought that they all wondered why I wasn't taking any of my binders with me. And then the joke was, well, you know, everyone thought, oh, so Shadi's coming back the next day. And I said, well, I don't really need to take anything because everything is already on my Google Docs or in my Google Drive. which I still have access to. So any questions so far before we go into our samples? Can you lose all the data? Well, that's a really good question. Just like anything, just like I could lose that binder, or that just like I can lose a paper, nothing in this world is 100%. So having said that, within my school board, I know that in York Region we are at Google Apps for Education, and we were told a number of times if Google server shuts down, then it shuts down for the whole board. So if you're going to lose something, everyone's going to lose something. So you don't have to worry about that. And also I should add that Google is a billion-dollar organization. Imagine what would happen in the world if their server were to crash. I'm sure they invest a lot of money in making sure that doesn't happen. I really hope that tomorrow something terrible doesn't happen, because I don't want you guys to blame me and say, but you said it was secure. Hopefully nothing will happen. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to show you guys some samples of Google Docs in the classroom. Before I show you guys some samples, I don't know how many of you subscribe to the teaching channel. It is by far my favorite go-to place. There's some really incredible videos that you can watch of model teaching and so on, but also just to get ideas of some things, some creative, innovative stuff that you can do in the classroom. I actually found on their site here's the link, the bit.ly link, where you can find tons of videos of teachers that are actually using Google Docs in the classroom with their students. Some of them are in high school, but a lot of them are younger, in elementary. It is US based, but again, the information is really, really useful. Please note the link is case sensitive, so capital C and capital D. If you do get an error message, it's probably because you forgot about the capitals. Okay? So here are some neat samples that you can use in your classroom. So most of these samples are samples from my classroom. However, some of them I have gotten ideas from other teachers that I work with in the system. So as I was mentioning earlier, this is something that I used to do in my classroom. I really did not like the paper agenda because kids always lost them. It was constantly misplaced. Either it was left at home or left at school. So I created a virtual agenda, I called it. And it was a Google Doc. I opened the Google Docs. I shared that Google Doc with students as view only because I didn't want them to take any of the assignments out. I inserted within the doc, I would input links for particular videos I wanted them to watch or any online assignment that I wanted them to do before they came to classroom. Instead of doing paper assignments, I did a lot of the assignments on Google Docs for the students to have access to. And I actually learned this from one of the teachers I work with. She took it a step further and she actually had her classroom newsletter, her grade 1 classroom newsletters co-created by her students. So each student was given a section of the newspaper that they were responsible for, and it was all done on one Google Docs. It was incredible. Could not believe that this was a grade 1 class, and the teacher would share that with the parents. Oh, sorry, and also really great, when I was in the classroom, I really focused on the learning skills, and I was teaching grade 8 class, majority boys, organization and remembering things was always a challenge, and I had the kids actually create a to-do list on Google Docs. Every day when they would come into class, they would have to look at their to-do list of the items that they had to complete for the day, and also they would put in that same document the items that they had to complete at home Okay? So someone asked a question, do you ever have any problems with students who did not have access to the internet at home? So that's a really excellent question. I'm so glad you asked that. Before I ever talked about any of the online tools or enforced the students to use any of this stuff, September I always took a survey of my class to see who had access and who didn't. So for the students who didn't have access, and I usually didn't have that a lot of just because of the community that I was teaching in, for the students who didn't have access to the internet, they were given time in class to do some of the work that required them to go online. Okay, but that survey in the beginning of the school year is very important. And in that survey, you should also ask the parents for their email address, preferably either a Gmail, Hotmail, or Yahoo. Company email addresses, due to security, sometimes don't work very well with Google. Get their email address so that you can share student work with them, with parents, just so that parents can see what their kids are doing in school. However, remember, when you're sharing anything with parents, share as view only. You don't want anything changed. Okay? Not that I'm saying parents change, assignments. Just, to be on the safe side, I would just share it with them as view only, just like I would with students. Okay? So here, before I was talking about sharing link to a website in Google Doc, one way to do this, and it looks really nice and neat in your Google Doc as opposed to putting the whole link, you go onto the website, you copy the link, you go back into your Google Docs, type the title, whatever it is that you want to share. So let's say here it's energy, and I want to share a link to energy. You highlight, and then you paste the link into this box. So you highlight and you click on Insert, Link, and this box opens up. You type in the link to whatever it is that you want to share, and that's it. And then you click on Apply. What happens is this turns blue and it's underlined. So if the students want to access anything to do with energy, they click on it and then they go directly to that link. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Descriptive feedback. So, in this example, let's say your students have submitted an assignment. Here's the assignment in Google Docs. To provide a descriptive feedback, you highlight the section of the writing that you want to comment on. And once you highlight it, you click on Comment, which appears at the top right-hand corner of the screen, just to the left side of Share. You click on Comment, and a little box, yellow box, opens up. You type in your comment, and you click on the word Comment, and your comment will be displayed for the student. Okay? Now, what I really love about this function is if the students were to delete this comment and you were to click on Comment, you will see all the comments that were placed and deleted, what time and when, which is really wonderful. And you can retrieve those deleted comments, because just because they're deleted doesn't mean they're gone. They're still there. I love this. Okay? Any question about descriptive feedback? Okay, good. I really love this feature because it's real-time descriptive feedback. As students are working on their assignments, I can simultaneously go in and check and see what progress they've made and leave them little notes, reminders, and comments, and have them improve their writing. I also love using this for peer editing, so I encourage students to share their writing with a classmate. However, share as comment only, not full editing, because I don't want anyone's work to be deleted. So I would have students share documents with each other as comment only, and their peers can look at their essays or their paragraph writing, whatever it may be, and then leave a comment for them. So someone asked if there is a way to create or insert an audio file as feedback. Yes, there is. So if you go into Add-on, there is a little tab that it's called audio. Okay, I'm going to think about the name and let you know. However, I must warn you, in some school boards, that is blocked. So that add-on you cannot add in some school boards. However, the new Google update has a little button that allows you to leave audio feedback as well, right within. So you don't even have to click on the add-on. And I would say to stay away from the add-on because sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. But within your Google Doc, there is, yes, thank you, Kaizana is the one that it's called. Kaizana is very popular. But now Google has its own voice comment that you can do. You don't even need to download Kaizana anymore. And again, it works the same way. So when you click on comment, you have an option where it's right when you click on option, it's either voice or typing. Okay. I really love the comment section that I showed you for visible thinking. Okay, so to make thinking visible, I actually have a link here for you guys. It's an article that goes that explains how to make thinking visible in your classroom using Google Docs. So it's a pretty neat article that actually takes you through the whole process. And there's some really, really neat suggestions, again, for any grade. Any questions so far? Okay. So within your literacy blog, some other ways that you can use Google Docs, excellent for your writing journal or just your reading journal. So either reading or writing journal. Reading responses, I used to use this a lot for my intermediate class. I love it for collaborative brainstorming and note-taking. I had a group of kids in class that always used to take notes together and share with each other in class. And then there was one student in that class who couldn't be with us often. She was going through chemotherapy, so a lot of the students would take notes for her and share it with her using Google Docs. So when she was in the hospital, she could actually access the notes on her mobile device. And apparently I heard from her mother that she was recommending her doctors to use Google Docs so they wouldn't be asking her the same question over and over again. And they would ask her something, share amongst themselves so that they would have all the answers and responses so every different doctors wouldn't be asking her the same question. It's quite adorable, but really powerful tool. Great for diagnostic assessments, especially when you're teaching a new unit. You just want to know, how much do the kids really know about this particular unit, where they're at. Really great to just do a quick little Google Docs, put a question up, and have students answer. Again, as I mentioned, excellent for peer editing and descriptive feedback. Any questions? Okay, good. Here are some other samples from the classroom. So this is something you would most likely use with primary, but you can, modify to use this with older kids as well. So here, this is an activity called See, Think, Wonder. You put a little picture. Again, you find your picture through search, picture images, input the picture here, and then ask students a number of questions. Okay, just to get a little feel and about what they're thinking, where they're at. This is a really good activity to do with your ELL students. Okay. Other suggestions. I created math picture dictionary with my students. I should correct myself. it was one of my students in my grade 8 class that suggested we create a math picture dictionary. So he started the doc and he shared it with the whole class and said, every time we learn something new, let's put it in this document so when we go to high school, we don't forget all of this. So it was a great way of using, you know, going back to their learning and kind of being reminded of, you know, the importance of what they learned in grade 8 and how it applies to grade 9. Great for Story Builder. To take the students through the process. There was an activity that my students really liked doing it. We called it speed writing, where as soon as they would come in, because they would come in to me from literacy from gym. So some kids came in, kids would all come in at, you know, different times, a couple of minutes behind each other. So as soon as they would come in, they would open up their computer, open a Google Doc, share it with the rest of the class, and it was quick little story writing. So each person would write one line of the story. And the goal was for us to see how much we can write before the whole class had come in and joined us. And then we would read the stories. And they were really, really good and extremely creative, some of the stuff that the kids would write about. Really great to use Google Docs just to share ideas with each other. Especially in class when you have groups that are not so vocal and don't really like to share ideas, this is a really great place for them to go to input their ideas. Again, as a brainstorming. So someone is asking, did students bring in their own devices every day or was there access for every student? I taught an intermediate grade in a brand new school, so we did not have enough money for technology for all kids. I had a class of 32 with 5 netbooks, and the rest of the students brought in their own devices. I know I was very fortunate because I lived in a neighborhood where kids could bring in their own devices, and they did. And however, before they did that, we did spend 2 months talking about appropriate use of technology. I had them sign documents, and we had really, really good information put together for the parents as well, and make sure that those devices were going to only be used for educational purposes. So the rule was when they left my class, their devices had to go in their lockers. They were not allowed to take it out to recess with them, and they were not allowed to take it to another class unless their teacher allowed them to do so. Okay. Another activity, so this is actually from my grade 8 class. This is something I really enjoy doing. In the mornings, I always scan the Toronto Star for the latest article. I would get a picture. I would input that picture in the Google Doc and really just ask the kids, what do you see and why is it important? We really focused on global citizenship in my classroom, and I really wanted the kids to go beyond their own world and think about the events that were happening in the world or even within their own community and how it affected them. So that's why I kept asking the question, why is it important? Why does it matter? And we always had this 5, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, it's called the 5 whys. So whenever you write something, you ask yourself why 5 times to get to the root of the problem. And that's what the kids really love doing. And I actually found their writing improved, and they were thinking much more critically and in depth when they kept asking the why questions. Again, this is from my own grade 8 class, teaching kids to write a thesis statement on a particular topic. They had a really hard grasping the idea. So I was really thinking, how am I going to do this in a way that they're all going to understand what a thesis statement is. So we did collaborative thesis writing. So what I created a chart because I didn't want kids to write all over each other in Google Doc, and this is something you'll find when you introduce Google Doc to the students for the first time. They're writing all over each other, yelling and screaming, hey, so-and-so deleted my stuff. So I found a chart for any grade, works really well. I actually learned this from a grade 2 teacher who created a chart with, she put the student's name in one column and then the question that they had to respond to in another one. Okay. So again, here are the name of the students on one side, and then here they would have to write their thesis statement. And the great thing about this was that they could really look and see what others have written based on the topic that they were given. And really great way for them to see, you know, in a class of 32, they would see 31 other examples of thesis statements. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so how did you create this table? So there is, if I go back to the tabs in Google Docs, I apologize, I hope this is not making you guys dizzy. If you go into Insert, so you click on Insert, and then there's a little option called Table. You click on that, and it's exactly like Microsoft Word. You choose your column, how many columns you want, and then you make your table, and it will just insert the table right in the Google Docs. Any other questions? Okay. Now, one thing I must stress is oftentimes when you are trying to integrate technology in your classroom, the idea teachers, and this is something that I often try to work with teachers to let them know that all of the work that you're doing, you don't necessarily need to have one computer per student. I don't know about the boards you work in, but I know in my board, we could not afford to give one computer per student. So I really, I should have probably stressed this in the beginning, I really think of all of this in terms of little workstations. Even if you have one computer or you have two in your classroom or you're able to borrow two, you have that little workstation. That's the area that the kids go to as they're rotating through, depending on how your literacy program or your math program or your science and social studies program are set. In my class, I always used the workstation model just so that all the kids would have access to the different technology that we had in the classroom. And also I found that all the kids that I had, again, being in a brand new school and I was the only grade 8, they had completely different skills and different needs. And I found that the workstation really helped get rid of some of that anxiety because they were learning on their own time, on their own term, based on what they needed most. So every kid was working on something different based on what they needed. And they were very good at articulating, you know, what they needed, because that's something that we had worked on the first 3 months of school in terms of, you know what, you are the master of your own learning. So we need to plan what it is that you need, how you're going to get it, and you need to come. And we had conferences, ongoing conferences, where they would tell me exactly what they needed. So another question is, did you get some students writing in other students' spaces? Not when I had the names. So Liam knew that this was his space, Liana knew that's her space, and so on and so on. So as long as the names were there, they were not writing in each other's space. Okay.
Can I just add something to that, Shadi? It's a really important question, Jeanette. And I would, you know, in my role as technology support, I worked with a lot of teachers introducing them to Google Docs, and having kids writing in each other's spaces was a very common practice. But the reason it didn't happen in Shadi's class, and it does happen in some people's classes, is that Shadi has done all the pre-work necessary to instill in her students that concept of digital citizenship and an understanding of respecting each other's spaces. And those conversations are very, very important prior to using these online tools and all through the learning process of using these tools. And kids will mess up, and that's okay. They mess up in every, you know, other ways as well. And it's just part of the learning, I think. But really good question, and it lends itself to talking about respect and digital citizenship and how important those concepts are.
Thank you. And one other thing I should mention and add on to that is, in my classroom, I never let kids go online day one. And that's very important because I spend the first month or two of school just talking about digital citizenship and digital etiquette and what does it mean to be online and how privileged the students are to have that opportunity when there's so many kids in the world that don't get that chance. And we constantly talk about that, and it's something that we constantly go over and discuss. And you know what? Yeah, they do make mistakes, but I gotta tell you, as soon as they make a mistake, they actually realize it right away and vocalize, you know, Miss, I made a mistake. I learned from it. I know what I have to do next time, very quickly. And they're really good at policing each other as well. So the first time you start using these tools, there are those challenges, but that's where the learning happens. However, I really encourage making sure that students are ready to go online before you have them go online. They really need to understand proper online etiquette. And we even talked about how does that look like, sound like, and feel like. So we really, really stressed that in the class. We actually also had a technology contract that every single student signed, and we posted that in the classroom as well, just as a reminder of this is how we're going to use these tools, and this is why we're using it, and we want to make sure that we're not going to be upsetting anyone or using it inappropriately and causing further issues. Okay. Any questions? Someone just said that we need a technology contract for the Chromebooks. Yes. Yes, 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 absolutely. If you have if you're a school that has purchased Chromebooks for your students, and usually schools that do this are Google Apps users, because Chromebooks are computers that, it's a Google computer and it's only used to go online. You can't download anything on it unless it's a Google app. Absolutely, you do need to do that. I think one challenge that we're having is the kids downloading games on their Chromebooks, so many games on their Chromebooks. So it's really important to discuss about, well, this is your Chromebook, how are you going to use it appropriately to support you in your learning? Okay. Okay, so in addition to a lot of the examples that I provided for you, there are some additional resources that I thought you guys would be interested in. I don't know how many of you have heard of Google Guru. Google Guru provides tons and tons of YouTube videos of Google how-to. Anything you can think of, they create, and they're really, really good. They're not necessarily just for education. They actually support businesses as well, but they have a lot of videos that you can access. I highly suggest subscribing to their YouTube channel. And this link that I have provided, which is the bit.ly link, bit.ly/theguru, takes you to that YouTube channel. You click on subscribe, and you'll be notified whenever a new video is posted. I promise a week of watching these videos, one video a day, let's say, and they're usually quite short, less than 5 minutes, you will become, by the end of that week, what we call a Google Ninja. I kid you not, you will be so surprised by how much you learn in that short amount of time, because their videos are that incredible. Another really good link is if you are looking for additional add-ons for your Google Drive, not your Google Doc. So your Drive is kind of like, think of it as your Google hardware, like the memory board, and then Google Docs are all the programs and so on that are within this this memory bank. So Google Drive, there are tons and tons of add-ons that you can add that's going to make your Google Drive experience that much better. For example, adding additional templates if that's something you want. I do not recommend, I really don't recommend introducing this to students. This is just for you. The problem is whenever students add an add-on, if they are in a Google Apps for Education school board, what happens is all of these apps and add-ons are third party. That means every time students add them, the app developers are collecting their username information. And the kids that we teach, if you're in elementary, they're under the age of 13. And by the laws of Canada, that's actually against our privacy laws and regulations. So be very careful and don't allow students to add anything on. And have that discussion with them, why they don't want their information out there. Data mining is a billion-dollar industry. That is companies taking your information and selling it. And they make lots and lots of money off of that. So we really want our kids to be careful. For those of you that are iPad users, Google Drive for your iPad is going to revolutionize your Google experience, because if you don't download it, then you're going through Safari, and what you see on Safari is going to be different than what you actually would see in a Google environment. So to get around that, Google has developed their Google Drive app. Remember, if you are going to download Google Drive, you have to also download Google Docs, Google Slide, Google Sheets. I don't know why they're separate. I have no idea, but you have to download all. Because if you were to just download Google Drive and try to access Google Doc, it will not open in your iPad unless you have the Google Doc app as well. Okay? So this is a little instruction. It's a video and a step-by-step guide that shows you how you can go about downloading Google Drive for your iPad and how you could potentially use this app, you know, with your iPad. Any questions? So we are at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to open it up to any questions, any wonderings, anything that you may have in the last few minutes of the evening. Thank you so much for your patience. Yes, Danielle. Okay, so someone asked, are there any suggestions for organizing your docs and your folders? Number one, as soon as you get files and folders, make sure you put them in a folder right away. So I'm going to take you back to the beginning of the presentation where I showed you guys how to access your Google Docs. And from there, I can show you the folder. So here's the folder icon. Create a folder. So I suggest, so what I used to do when I was in the classes, I had a literacy folder and then a subfolder within my literacy folder. So I had a literacy folder. Within that literacy folder, I had a reading, writing, oral, media folder. Again, I always think about reporting. At the end of the day, I have to report. What's the easiest way for me to find all my assessments? And you can color code your folders. But be very careful, because when I started color coding, I kind of went a little wild with my color coding, and there were too many color codes, and I had no idea what they were all about. So the only color codes that I recommend is all the student files and your lessons and everything, keep them gray, which is the standard color. Your assessment folder, color code that green. And then your parent folder, that means all the information that you share with parents, color code that red, so that you automatically stop before you put anything in that folder, because you know that others are looking at that folder. That's my suggestion. Is it a smooth process uploading files? Let me go back. Files to Drive that are in a variety of formats. Yes, absolutely. So to upload your Microsoft Word folders, you just click on File, which is one individual file, or Folder Upload, and then you upload them right within your Google Doc. However, be very careful. The first time you do this, on the top right-hand side of the screen in your Google Drive, there's a gear-looking thing, either gear or flower, whatever you want to call it, and that's Setting. You want to click on that, and then there's an option that says Convert Uploaded Files to Google Doc. and you want to click on that. The reason why is if you don't convert them to a Google Doc, you will not be able to edit them, and you want to be able to edit them. Okay? And again, Google Guru will actually show you how to do that if you're not 100%, if that wasn't clear. So Andrew mentioned something about Google Contacts. Okay, Andrew, do you want to talk about that again, or do you want me to go over contacts?
I think Shirley's question was more about sharing with different classes of students. Okay, so the best way to do that, so I was also the Rotary teacher, so I feel your pain, Shirley. I created distribution list, and the way that I did that is I had the school, again, it depends on how your school, your board and your school is set up. I actually had the school secretary send me a list of all the, on a spreadsheet, all the kids that I taught. I uploaded them to my Google Drive, and within my Google Drive, I would go into, when you are in your Google Drive, there is a little option called Contacts. You go into Contacts, and then you can upload all of those names in your contact and then give the group a name. I know it sounds a little, you actually have to, Google Guru shows you how to do that as well. If you cannot find it, please email me and I will send you the video instruction of how to do that. Because that'll save you a lot of time, because then when you're sharing something, you would type in grade 7 and then the name of the teacher, and then that document will go to all the students that are in that class. So really, it's just like creating a distribution list if you are using Microsoft Outlook in your board or even First Class. Same way that you would create a distribution list there, you can do it within the Google environment as well. Yes, so so Andrew mentioned that Contact is a separate app that's worth its own webinar. I completely agree. Yes, you are right, Andrew. There's lots to explore in the Google environment for sure. That's why tonight I just really wanted to focus on Google Docs alone, because every component of the Google environment is so rich on its own that you could spend weeks and years on it. I have to say, I've been in this environment, using the Google environment, for over 7 years, and every day I'm still learning something new. It's so powerful. So I think it's Wilma. Wilma asked, what is the quality of the conversation of Microsoft to Google, conversion of Microsoft to Google? It depends how complicated and how advanced and creative your Microsoft Doc is. Google has really, really improved the conversion. However, sometimes I notice with tables and images, they get a little messed up when you convert them to a Google Doc. I suggest just creating everything in the Google Doc environment. Now that you're a Google Doc Pro, why do you need Microsoft Word anymore? You can just do it all in Google Docs. I promise Google isn't paying me to say that. But seriously, if they were, I could retire from teaching. So someone asked, what are the difference of converting a Microsoft to Google? The reason why you would want to start out in the Google environment is, just as I mentioned in the beginning of the session, the Google environment allows that collaboration and allows you to have your files accessed using any device. So I don't have to worry about being on a particular computer or running out of memory on my computer or anything like that. I can access it using any device, even my phone if I wanted to. Laura, can you send me, I think Susan, my
contact will be shared with the group, correct? If it is, if you can send me an email, I can send you the instructions on how to create a distribution list. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Oh, my email. Should I put my personal, Susan, or my board one? Does it matter? Well, I'll just type in my board for now, but it really doesn't matter.
Shadi, can I flip ahead to the final?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I'm done, unless I was just waiting to see if anybody had any questions.
Haha, I appreciate your comment, Marcy. Love being able to eat cookies and drink tea in my family room. It's a nice, comfortable environment. So, Shadi, thank you so much for a very informative session, very smooth. You have a really nice, easy manner that just added to our comfort tonight as we sat with our cookies and beverages. And thank you to all the participants. You had great questions, and, you know, we had a large group tonight, and people have stayed throughout our time together. So we really appreciate your input, your presentation, Shadi, and your questions and contributions. Participants. Shadi, I really liked all your screenshots. It was really easy to follow as you shared. They were nice, simple, clean slides. You had great classroom examples, which I could tell from the chat and from people's comments that they were appreciating those examples, and it was motivating some good thinking. So thank you to all of you for coming tonight. You'll see on the screen that you're looking at right now that there is a feedback survey. And if you click on that link, it's active right on the screen. That will take you to a specific feedback survey for tonight's session, and we really appreciate you. I'll be dropping that in the chat in a minute. We really appreciate you doing that because it helps OTF in their planning. This has been a program that has really been growing over the last 4 years, and a huge amount of interest in our sessions this year, and it's expanded from elementary into secondary this year. So terrific interest from teachers across the province. So we appreciate your feedback. There were some questions early about getting resources for past webinars, and this is an amazing collection of resources that OTF has. If you go to the OTF website, OTF Connect's website, down the left-hand side, there is a link. There's a nice table of links down the left-hand side, and one of them is called Past Webinars and Resources. And if you click on there, there are some resources shared for all of the past OTF sessions. And you can go in and listen to recordings of these sessions. So as I'm recording this session tonight, every word that's said, everything in the chat, it just plays back. And you can fast forward and get to the part that you need. It's just quite incredible. Very, very nice. So I hope you'll check that out. I'm going to go to the, anybody else still need the link on here? I do need to put that in the, oops. Sorry, I did something I didn't intend to do. I'm going to copy that and put that right in the chat. There we go. So it's there, so I can go on to the next slide. Throughout the month of January, there are some great sessions still coming up. You can register for sessions right up until 5 o'clock on the day of the session. And there's some great stuff, and it's all free, as you know. It's an amazing resource for teachers. So I will finish off there, I believe. Any last words, Shadi?
Sorry, I had to turn on my mic. No, thank you so much. You are a fantastic moderator for a first-time moderator. No way. You are amazing. Would have never guessed that this was your first time.
You.
Good job.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. That doesn't end the session. It just stops the recording. So thank you, everyone.